Welcome to our oral history program. Most of our programs have been about the early days of Rouses Point, Champlain, and Moors. But today we're going to go back further in time. At the beginning of the Revolution, Canada decided to stay out of the revolt against the Britons. Some Canadians refused to go along with the majority, and large groups of them left their homes, crossed the border, to be organized in a military unit led by Moses Hazen. He was a general in the Continental Army. After the war, Hazen led his soldiers to the upper New York state to settle on land grants on the border they'd left years before. These people from Quebec and Nova Scotia became refugees in the United States. They thought they would have temporary exile, and they left their property, their livelihood, their friends, and even their religion. Some did return to Canada, but many stayed in this area. You can't tell the story of the refugees without telling the story of Moses Hazen. And today we are honored to have Mr. Ed Trombly from Rouses Point and Dennis Lewis from Morrisonville enacting the part of a revolutionary soldier and a hunter-trapper. They will enact their thoughts and feelings of the men at that time.
Hey, Dennis.
Hi, Ed. How are
Been
you?
a long time.
Jeez.
About 4 summers since I've seen you.
Well, wondered what had happened to you.
I got problems with a flint here.
Oh.
I'm going to try hammer this one time and see if I got it adjusted right. Use it. Yeah.
Ah, sparking pretty
Yes, I
good there.
got it. Okay. Now maybe we won't miss one. Hopefully. What have you been up to?
Well, they finally mustered us out down at White Plains, and there's some of the guys are up at Albany waiting for the land settlements. I guess pretty
Land
soon.
settlements.
Yeah, they're gonna give us bounty land for service during the war.
I'll be darned.
Gonna give us chunks of property up here along the border.
Suppose you got a bounty too.
Just a little one. Not much. That's why they're giving us land.
It's crusade down there with them guys. Price of furs has gone completely to bottom. No market. Get up St. John's once in a while, sell a few, but not much around here.
How are things in Quebec?
Well, it was quiet up there. Busy as a beehive a couple of years ago, though. I think we had the whole European army up there for a while, moving back and forth.
I guess there's a lot of people left the colonies and gone north.
Yeah?
Tell us that about a third of the population of the states left.
For Canada? What for?
I guess they didn't like the government.
How is it? You going to work?
Sure.
That sounds good.
I guess it's not all that good for our regiment, and with a lot of the guys from Canada, but
What are you going to do? Stay soldiering?
no, they're going to disband the army. In fact, they've done it.
Whole army?
Whole army.
That don't sound too good, does it?
I guess they haven't got the money to pay for it. They're giving us rations down in Albany and Fishkill, but they're going to move everybody up to Albany, and then they're going to hold a lottery, and you're going to get to draw for your land.
Well,
And they're going to split it up. Officers are getting more as normal.
that was the same way with Major Rogers.
Geez, I
What's,
see you got some coffee
Yeah,
here.
get your mug out there. I'll pour one out for you. Ain't bad around this fire.
No.
Get it.
Well. So they've been letting you cross the border pretty regular, or they
Haven't had much trouble. Haven't had much trouble.
wonder how they're going to be about us going up to see the families.
Probably going to be tough now. It'll things quiet down. Those people get the blood out of their eyes and their heads. Who are you with? Who's your soldier with?
2nd Canadian Regiment, Moses
2nd
Hazen's
Canadian?
regiment.
Where's he out of?
He came from up St. John's.
Oh, yeah?
He owned a lot
I've heard of
of
him.
property up there and some down around here.
Well, raised a regiment up there.
He raised a regiment up at Quebec when we were up in during the siege.
Is that right?
75.
75. That was Dick Montgomery and Arnold, wasn't it?
Yep. Well, raised in November, early January. So the unit, well, mostly Canadian to start with, but now we got everything. We got all the foreign units that were formed and dumped into 2nd Canadian.
Well, that's what we be, ain't we? We're all mongrels here.
Well, most of them. So we got Germans and everything else.
All going to settle up around here?
Well, most of the Germans are going to stay, I guess, down Pennsylvania where they're from.
Yeah.
In that we couldn't get recruits out of Canada during the war. They sort of had to find a place to get us people, so they let us recruit all over.
Oh.
I was off recruiting in Maryland and up in Massachusetts. And
was you fellas down there when Cornwallis threw in the hatchet?
yep,
Yeah?
the regiment was with the main army most of the time. We've been with Washington almost for the whole war.
Were you
We only
down there in
been
that
up-
bad winter?
Yeah, but we were a little better off than most. We were out on outpost duty,
Oh.
so we had a little better quarters and we could maybe find a little food around the countryside.
Oh, I see. Some farmers come up with some stray chickens.
Yeah, there were a few.
Missing. Some having
Well,
trouble,
You know, we had to eat something,
yeah.
and we got clothing pretty good because Moses
Good
was
spot for that right there.
usually over harassing Congress, getting what he could for us. We didn't see too much of him, but Colonel Antill stayed around. He came down with us from Quebec in the first.
Yeah.
But we came up to Albany in '78. Thought we were going to be going to Canada again. They were planning an invasion, but they gave up on it.
Let's see if I can get a stick going here like this pipe.
So I guess most everybody's been pretty. They want to get back up here. They'd like to go home, but I don't think we're gonna.
I'm gonna have to get another stick going here.
Yeah, boy, that one didn't take off at all good.
Well, I got a little bit there. Get a little smoke. Tobacco's been hard to get.
Looks like you ought
Getting
to.
this.
Looks like you ought to go back up and see if you can get a new pipe there. It's getting sort of short.
We had a bad winter here, Dennis. Soon as ice out, I'm going to Crown Point. I'm getting too long in the tooth for this stuff.
Yeah, we came up through Crown Point. There's still not much going on down there.
Get anything? Get any supplies? Furs going? Any money down there for furs? I got a few.
No, the tavern's open again.
Well, that's good news. That's
So,
good news.
and
You got
there's
to
a
do
few-
something to sweeten his coffee up. We
There's
had
a
some of that.
few. There's a few settlers coming up. But I think things will liven up in the spring and summer when they start moving the regiment up.
Whole regiment's coming up here for mustering?
Anybody who wants land, although I guess
In this area?
yeah, I guess a lot of them though are gonna sell their land grants to the speculators instead of taking up the land.
Is that right? Where are they going to go? Back to Canada?
I don't know. Some of them staying down the Hudson. A lot of the ones that came out of the colonies are going home. I think most of the Canadians will be coming up here.
Well, it's good land around here. From what I see, I'm not much of a farmer, but
Well,
I
all
think
we
the fellow
saw
could
of it,
make a livelihood here.
all we saw of it was the spring of '76, getting out of Canada and getting south.
Well, you were that outfit.
Yeah,
I was
We
down
were.
around Thai at that time. I understand it was busy up here.
and a little bit. A lot of the troops that came up to reinforce us brought the smallpox in. A lot of people dying, and not enough supplies.
I heard a little bit about that smallpox. That's pretty bad stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, they moved us moved us out pretty fast. They got us down to Crown Point and to Ty, and then sent us down to Albany. We didn't stay up. We weren't back up until, as I said, 78. We've been up in the upper Connecticut.
Were you down around Saratoga when they had the action down there?
No, we were down with the main army around New York. But we went up into the upper Connecticut River to build a road from, the upper Cohos up through towards St. John.
Up in the intervales.
Yeah. Yeah, we were going to, I guess, build the road, and they were going to try and invade Canada in that direction, but nothing came of it.
What do we want to invade Canada for?
Well, after all, most of our regiment was for it, because that's where we came
We're
from.
home, yeah. Where do you think they'll finally draw the boundary? We're here in Stony Point. Going to be around here? Are we going to be here in Canada now, or are we going to be in the United States?
Well, province lines right here. That's the accepted border, but there's still Brits down at Point of Fur.
There's still?
There's still a garrison there and one over in the islands.
They're going to try to claim all that on us.
I think so.
It'll be another war.
Probably.
It'll be another war.
Probably have to fight for this now.
It's going to be here too. It's going to be here again.
Well, we'll have to get our land. If they give it to us, we got to get it. So.
Yeah. Any talk of us keeping a standing army?
No, nobody wants to stand in the army. They're tired of armies.
Whole world's been tired of armies. Too
British-
bad we have to use them, but we do.
Well, British don't. You know, they're keeping an army, but I think most of the folks are scared if there's a stand in the army, things will be just like they were before.
Probably. Of course, if they get these guys down there, we don't get much news up here, you know. Papers are slow in coming. We get those ideas that Franklin and that gang wants to get in there. Might turn out to be something, you know.
Well, I
Fellas,
think that probably the states are going to keep up the militia.
well, that's a good sign.
So they're handing out commissions left and right.
Well, I don't know about out west of this territory here, but we haven't had any Indian trouble in quite some time now. I guess there's still a little bit out on the western frontier, but
Some of the land grants are out in the west, out around Fort Stanwix,
Oh.
out there, Oswego.
yeah, I was out there once. That's quite a poke.
Yeah,
You get
but
there.
that's not going to be for our regiment. That's for some of the other state regiments.
Well, you guys weren't. Were you attached to a state? Were you under any state's quota?
No, sir, we were Congress's own,
Oh,
but we've been sort of pawned off on New York because, well, nobody wants us.
well, I ain't going to stay here, but I guess you fellas are welcome around here. Hopefully.
Well, there isn't much up here from what we can see.
Well, there's going to be someday.
I hope so.
There's going to be someday. Pretty country here.
Yeah, and it looks like good farming country.
Got a good waterway here. Good trade. Hopefully we can make it. I understand that some of them fellows over there call themselves Vermonters doing a land office business with the Canadians and British.
Well, that's possible. I noticed that the tavern's on the Vermont side now, down at Crown Point, and noticed that there were some people down there that didn't look quite like they belonged. I thought maybe they might be British.
Get good demare down there now?
Yep.
I think that's where I'm going as soon as I can get that boat in the water.
Well, ice isn't
Too far to walk.
ice isn't too good going down through there.
Still here.
Yeah.
Had tough paddling in that thing. On that ice. But,
So,
well, any place else you were down there with the regiment you can tell us about? I'd
well,
like to know. Get as much
as I
information
said,
as I
we
can.
were up to up in the upper Connecticut. We were down in Connecticut or in Connecticut. I think they had us over on the upper Connecticut to keep an eye on the Vermonters too,
That's probably.
because they were trading with the British then.
Yeah.
But then we were down at, well, we fought at Princeton. We spent the winter at Morristown a couple of times down in Jersey.
You're talking towns now that I ain't familiar with.
Morristown, just, well, it's west of New York.
You boys from up here went all the way down there.
Oh, we went all the way to Virginia. And they had us up in Maryland and Pennsylvania guarding German and British prisoners.
That must have been fun.
Well, the Germans aren't going home. Most
What are we
of
gonna do
them
with
deciding to stay.
What are we going to do with them?
Well, they've just decided to stay. They want to be citizens here.
Good stock.
Yeah.
Good stock. That ought to help us.
So, but we went all over, and then we spent from after Yorktown. We spent most of the time up around White Plains waiting for the British to leave.
Yeah, I've been down almost to White Plains there. That's almost to the big cliffs on the river there.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we
I've been down
spent
in
most
there.
of the time in the camp. That's when they sort of broke down the other foreign regiments and gave them to us. I think they figured that we'd keep an eye on them.
Well, I guess we owe everybody that was down there a little debt. Hopefully it's going to be a debt that we can repay and make this country into what all you guys were fighting for. I didn't do much fighting. I did a little scouting and foraging for a couple of these units that went through here. But,
We sure didn't get much money,
well,
but the colonel got us pretty good rations. We weren't wanting too often. We weren't like some of the regiments that we saw without shoes. And
you got pretty good shoes on, so they must have treated you pretty good.
yep, last pair that the Army gave me.
Yeah. There you go. What is all that? Oh, USA.
Yep.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yep. In fact, we added the white to the Cockade when the French joined us after Saratoga.
What is that symbolic of?
And that's the white is the color of the French, and the black, of course, that's the old British Cockade. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what we were using too. But the whole Army wearing that. That's our Union Cockade.
There you go. The Union.
Union
A
of the
new
French and British, or French and Americans
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was with Rogers, and we in the English was fighting the French. Now it's the French and us fighting the English.
Yeah. Well, you know, Rogers went with the British again.
I'd heard that. Of course, so did Arnold.
Well,
You know.
I hear Rogers' brothers up at St. John's with a bunch of criminals, and
Looking to make trouble.
apparently they've been down.
Maybe you guys better not muster out yet.
Well, we're mustered out. Some
You
of us
got a-
got away with our.
Got a good loud bugler, drummer, or
Yeah, some of us got away with our gear though.
you weren't supposed to keep it?
Well, some of it was supposed to be turned
Oh. And what are you going to do with that?
in, but well, figured the musket be good for hunting and that. Haven't got the one that I had home.
You didn't have to bring your own. They furnished you.
Well, I wore mine out.
Yeah.
It broke, and so I got one of the French muskets that they brought over.
Good.
Nice guns, nice and light.
Looks like a good one.
Not like those old beat up things that we used to see around the shops. I mean, look at this.
That's good woodwork. And they're pretty. United States.
Yeah, they went and branded them all up,
Oh, that's
so that
good.
we know who they belong to.
Sounds good. Well, that looks better than that big arrow of the king's. At least we don't have a king, or are we going to have a king?
Who knows? I think they're still fighting about that, but yeah, we got these in about 1778.
What are we going to have to end up paying the French for the help they give us, you know?
I don't
That's
know.
gonna
I
be
heard
costly to
these.
us.
I heard these muskets cost us about $7 a piece. I don't know what we're gonna pay it with.
That Yankee dollar that they're talking about ain't worth much up here. They even write people shy on that stuff. They want the good hard shillings.
Well, paper money. All we've seen is paper money, and nobody wants it.
Take a wheelbarrow of it to
Couldn't
buy a
even
jug of rum. wouldn't
couldn't
it?
even go to the sutler with it and get tobacco or rum.
Huh.
But we got we got clothing from the French too.
Oh yeah?
We got uniforms from
That
them. Not
thing-
these. Wore that out a long time ago. I got my good regimental coats back at the camp, but yeah,
Well,
they
you
gave
look
us
warm
that.
anyway.
They gave us a lot of stuff.
Well, you're going to need it to get started anyway. They say that the pay wasn't very good.
I haven't got any money left.
Didn't pay in hard money, you just said.
Just paper.
Just paper. Script. May get on our feet. May find some market somewhere. Let's hope so.
I don't know. Heck, they even ran out of leather towards the end of the war for making cartridge boxes, and they went to using these tin ones.
Tin.
Tin.
That must be noisy.
Well, they sort of make a little rattle when you're wandering around, but we're in the woods, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They got us all trained to stand up in nice straight lines.
Good. That's that German fella started all that, isn't it?
Yeah, some guy, Steuben or something.
I don't
He's
know.
settling with a bunch of his people too,
Here?
out in the western part.
Oh, no, good. Good. Out in the Ohio?
No, right out in the Mohawk.
Oh, yeah? In this state?
Yep.
Good. That's pretty good.
State's giving him a big chunk of property.
Well, I hope that they treat all of you guys all right. Let's hope they treat everybody right.
Well, you ought to have land coming. They're giving anybody who served land.
Is that right?
Yeah, you got to go down to Albany though and see the land commissioners.
Well, I got some time in. I did some scouting and foraging. By golly, maybe I can get something out of that. Albany.
Albany, just down. Yeah, you go in.
I've been there.
You're gonna have to. You got any proof that you were in? You line up one of your old commanding officers to write you a letter.
I might get down. I get down to Crown Point. I can find something anyway for sure. And I'm going there anyway, so ain't much farther than that.
Well, get as much stuff as you can, because they'll.
Well, that sounds good. Well, I'm glad to see you made it back in this area unscathed anyway, Dennis.
Well,
Always
you ought
good to see
you ought
your
to
friends.
stick around, Ed.
I may come back. I got to get out of here. As I say, this winter in this kind of country, lean-to, is getting a little bit beyond my age.
Well, there'll be
I
a lot
gotta
of
get
people
down.
up pretty soon building houses.
Well, get up here and build something permanent, maybe. I can get a piece of land up here. Yeah, I think I'd do it. I ain't tied my hand to farming too much, but I can give it a try.
Well, a lot of things to do.
Well,
I better be hitting the road here.
I think that sun is getting down over there. It'll take me about an hour to get back to my lean-to. Ice out. Maybe I'll see you again, Dennis.
Okay, Ed.
I
Well,
hope.
take care.
Thanks for all you done for us.
Yeah. Well, come up and see.
Well, I'm gonna get some land up here now.
Hey, you better.
I'll be here.
Okay.
I hope the people watching what we did here a few minutes ago is much fun for them as it was for me.
Yeah.
I'm sure you feel the same way. Why don't you, Dennis, describe some of the equipment that you would have carried in war and what its use is. So I'm going to kind of let you, and if it's not clear
Okay.
enough for me, I'll ask you to clarify something for the
Okay,
people.
sounds good, Ed. Basically, I'm dressed as a soldier of the 2nd Canadian Regiment in the summer campaign gear, probably about 1779, 1780. And I'm carrying a French musket supplied by the French government to the Continental Congress, and then issued out to us. This is a 69 caliber musket. It fires a round ball out of a smooth bore. And to fire it, you would have on your side a cartridge box. This one's tin. It's not a leather one like a lot of the troops would have had. And you'd take a cartridge out of the box, and you'd bring it up to your mouth, and you'd bite the end off of the paper tube that the powder in the ball is in. And a soldier in the 18th century had to have at least good front teeth so that he could bite that cartridge. So you bite it, you tear the paper off, you pour a little powder in the pan, and you shut the frizzen, hold the powder in. And there's a hole that connects this pan into the main portion of the barrel. And you'd cast the musket about, you'd pour the powder down the muzzle, start the ball in, draw the ramrod, run it down, you bring it out, and the gun would now be loaded.
Dennis, in the manner that you're doing that, is that all in accordance with the drill regulations of the Continental Army?
Not really.
It seemed pretty formal the way you were going through that.
It's pretty close to the standard drill, but it's sort of simplified. You'd then cock the musket, you'd present it, and when you squeeze the trigger, this piece of flint that's in the hammer right here actually shaves little pieces of steel off the face of this steel frizzen. And the friction from that piece of flint doing that makes them glow quite hot, and that's what ignites the powder. And then you'd go through it again. A well-trained soldier could do what I've just done about 4 times a minute. In addition to using the ball and firing the musket, you could turn it into a pike by putting the bayonet on the muzzle. And the 2nd Canadian was one of the regiments that at Yorktown made use of the bayonet in some night attacks on some of the British redoubts. And they did it with unloaded muskets. They just used the bayonet. The bayonet was usually what decided a battle in the 18th century because it worked all the time. And a musket, once it got dirty or if things were a little wet, it didn't work so good. So I've got the bayonet on my left side where it's easy to get at, and of course my cartridge box on the right side. In addition, I've got my haversack. And the haversack's what you carry your food in. You'd carry your ration of bread and meat and salt and vinegar and anything else that you could get your hands on, either legitimately or maybe with a little walking alongside the road and noticing something that might be edible. And I've also got a tin canteen. The canteen and the haversack, when you went into battle, were dropped, so that all you had to worry about was your bayonet, cartridge box, and musket. And I said I was dressed in a summer uniform. And what it is, it's a hunting frock, which was a fairly standard piece of clothing in the Continental Army. They were cheap to make. They were made out of linen. They had capes, which kept your shoulders dry. It added a couple of extra layers of fabric so the water wouldn't soak through quite as fast. And I've got a waistcoat underneath it and a linen shirt. This one's checked blue and white, which was a real standard color in the Continental Army. And I've got on just a neck cloth. I don't have on a leather stock around my neck. A leather stock is a collar that went around and fastened in back. And the stock was supposed to keep you standing erect and keep your head up straight. really an uncomfortable piece of equipment, and if you could get away with not wearing it, you did. The hat I'm wearing is called a cocked hat, and it is the most recognizable symbol of an 18th century soldier. It's cocked on three sides. In other words, the brim is tipped up and it's fastened with pieces of cord. On the side of it is the cockade, and the cockade is sort of like the eagle plate that's on a modern U.S. Army hat. It designates the nation that you're from. It's the national symbol. In this case, it consists of the black cockade, which was the old British cockade that the Continental Army adopted, and the white cockade of the French Army, and it's called the Union cockade, and that was because of the French alliance with the Continental Army, or the new United States. And it's got a Continental Army button on it. The bucktail is just something that might be stuck on by a particular company so that they would be recognizable from another company. In addition to this type of clothing, I would probably have a regimental coat, which would be brown wool with red trim on it. Late war, it would have gone to blue with white or buff-colored trim. I'm not wearing breeches, which a lot of the soldiers would have. I'm wearing trousers, which were a lot more common during the late war period. And I'm also wearing leather shoes with buckles. Shoes were issued hopefully at the rate of about 2 pair a year. Most of the time they didn't get them. And the 2nd Canadian is noted to have worn moccasins quite a bit because they were used to making moccasins in Canada. A lot of the 2nd Canadian troops did come from Canada, and they came from both the English and French communities. But a lot of the regiment was also made up of people recruited in what is now the, well, northeastern part of the United States. Geez, I don't know, Ed, is there anything that you can think of that...
I'd like you to go through, if you got, I don't know if I asked you to bring it, but did you bring anything in your haversack that would be of interest to your tin cup? You might explain.
Oh, yeah, I brought a few things. Each soldier was supposed to get one of these tin cups, and the tin cup was what he could use to put his food in. Food was supposed to be boiled. The Army frowned on food that was fried or roasted. It was supposed to be unhealthy for the troops. And you'd buckle that to your haversack. You might also have a wooden bowl or a tin plate, but I've got some things in my haversack that regulations probably wouldn't permit. I got a pair of moccasins that I've tucked in so that I can switch off with the shoes. And I've got a wallet, and like most Continental soldiers, I haven't got any money in it, but I've got a comb to comb the lice out of my hair. And I've got a tool that I can change the flints with and sharpen them in my musket. And I've got some spare flints tucked in here so that when that one wears out, I can put a new one in. And for eating utensils, got a simple pewter spoon and a very cheap pocket knife that doesn't have a spring. You hold it open with your thumb on a little button, and that's all that you would generally have to eat with. Forks were in use and were fairly common, but your average soldier probably wouldn't have had one. If he did, it was probably made from twisted wire. And I've got my Strike-A-Light kit, my fire starting kit, which not only a soldier but a civilian would carry, male or female. And what it consists of is an iron striker and a piece of flint, some linen tow, which is what you use to start the fire with, and underneath this piece of leather in here is some char cloth, and it's linen that's been burned slowly so that it's charred, and that'll catch a spark real easy and get the fire going. And I guess Ed's set up here. He can maybe give you a good demonstration of fire making. He's got a good sharp flint.
We're going to try. And as Dennis said, the idea is to get some sparks, some shavings off of this piece of steel, mild steel. Make sure it's clean first. Get yourself set up and hope we can catch a spark. I'm not going to, if I don't do this right away, we're not going to pursue it too far.
And what Ed's doing, if you let your fire go out overnight, you had to do this in the morning to get it going again, or go to your neighbors and borrow some glowing coals. So it wasn't like today where you could just get a match and get it going. And this isn't something that just a soldier would have to do. This is something that every person would have to do if they wanted a fire.
That, as you can see, is not an easy task. It takes quite a lot of wind. They say I have a lot of hot air, so it works pretty well. But as Dennis explained, you can catch a spark in that char cloth and then get your tinder glowing. And the reason I held it up here, and a lot of people, when we're teaching people to do this, they want, and what you do is you get just an enormous amount of smoke in your face. You do it up here where the smoke gets out of your face, and you can strike a fire.
Yeah.
Dennis has gone through, I'm not going to go through as heavily because the principal part here, but this is what a trapper scout would very likely carry. He wouldn't carry a cartridge box, he'd carry his powder in a horn. In here I have the bullets and patches because I would be using a rifle. And there were some regiments in the United States Army at the time that were armed with rifles, which is a much more effective arm at distances, but it couldn't be handled, loaded fast enough to be good. I would have carried a hawk, a tomahawk, and not so much as a weapon, but as a tool to for getting wood and things of that knife, and a knife. This is probably a little fancier than the average guy would carry. I must have sold some good furs that year. And that's basically what it is, and the arm is the same thing that Dennis has, only as I say, a rifle would be loaded in a little duffel because there's rifling in it. And so that's about it, unless we have some people here. If they have any questions, why don't we ask them? You got some?
The only other things I've got with me, I got my little timepiece with me, which is a little pocket sundial that you could use to get a rough approximation of the time. And in that you spend a lot of time in camp, and as soldiers are still known to do, a little gambling goes on, so you might have a pack of cards. Cards are a lot different than they are today. They're printed one side. They're pretty plain. But I don't know of too many armies that allow cards around, but they usually show up.
And the one I was in the 50s, you weren't supposed to. You wouldn't have to have
But you
galloping
usually
dominoes
saw,
either.
right?
You weren't supposed to be using galloping dominoes either, but there's a lot of that going on.
Well, gambling was one of the pastimes.
I think you got the same thing in the Continental Army, and I think Napoleon had it, and I think Caesar's legions had it.
Yeah.
Soldiering is mostly boredom.
Yeah. Most of the time you're building roads or sitting in camp.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. I want to. Don is probably going to want to say something, but
Thank you, sir.
Dennis has done quite a lot in this vein, and he's freelance. Mrs. O'Boyle is going to join us here, and I just want to glorify my friend here just a minute before you go, because Dennis is doing this out of the graciousness of his heart, and he is a historian of some renown. You review books on the subject and reenact, etc. Why don't you, can we just get a plug in for the Crown Point reenactment? This is an educational thing. Dennis, tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, this summer, as in summers past, there's going to be 2 major reenactments at Crown Point State Historic Site. There will be a Revolutionary War reenactment the first weekend in August. And there'll probably be 200 or 300 uniformed soldiers there representing Continental Army and British Army units. And we'll put on a mock battle. There will also be a lot of tents set up so that you can see how the soldiers live. Then the last weekend in August, there's a 7 Years' War, or French and Indian War as it's known on this side of the border, reenactment with the same type of units there, doing British and French in that case. And one big thing that's coming up that's new this year, on May 19th, we're doing a day-long program for the schools with craftspeople doing spinning, horn making, shoe making, all kinds of crafts. The same program on a slightly reduced scale will be made available to the public on that Sunday, which is the 21st. Saturday we'll be around, but our unit is, and the people who are there are going to sort of take the day off after a busy Friday. And there's other small events during the year at Crown Point. You can find out by contacting the site, and it's usually listed in the Press Republican.
Hey, Dennis, that's good. Mrs. O'Boyle, you want to wrap us up or whatever you're going to do?
I want to thank both of you very much for showing your expertise and your interest in history. The Oral History Group are very lucky and glad to have you. Hope you can come again sometime.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.